The Flash, Season 9. This is the full spoiler review. I have a review up on my blog, soundedbettermyhead.com. There's a couple small spoilers in there, but I've tried to keep it as spoiler-free as I could. I ended up giving this season a 2 out of 5. Just really nothing special about this season. The show definitely went past its prime a couple years back. They actually had a pretty good setup for last season to be the final season, and I think at one point they were convinced that was going to happen. They did get a more or less last-minute reprieve, so they made some tweaks. So this season, it just kind of feels like maybe an epilogue or kind of like some filler. They did go back and cover some topics that they hadn't covered yet, but a lot of it was just kind of like, well, we got some time to kill, so let's stretch this out to 13 episodes. What The Flash has been doing for a while now is what they're calling graphic novels. Just a set of episodes, then they'll usually do an interlude of some type, and then usually another graphic novel, and then another interlude. This season, you had a graphic novel, an interlude, and a graphic novel. The first one was all about the Red Death. Little disappointed, from what I know about the character, which isn't that much. It's basically an evil Batman with, the Flash's powers from a different reality. It's not that shocking they didn't use Batman himself, because they're really leery to use Batman in these CW shows. They used the Ryan Wilder Batwoman instead, which makes sense for the Arrowverse. But again, it would have been cool. This is kind of the last chance that the Arrowverse could have used Batman. And it wasn't that great. It was an okay setup. I wasn't too blown away with the costume. I thought the finale was kind of weak. Just her duplicating herself somehow with some telepathic powers. Kind of was lame that she had no powers herself. It was all in the suit. So, I don't know. I just didn't care for it. Then you had the back and forth with Chilblain. Kind of turning heel, going back. I said that the arc just was a letdown, to be honest. They switched over to the interlude, which I think was about 4 episodes long. There was some okay stuff in there. Thought the luck-based episode was kind of corny. The one where Green Arrow shows up was a nice return of the character. So they're just kind of give and take on that segment, ups and downs. Then you go to the final section of which was the New World graphic novel, and I believe it was only 4 episodes, and it felt a little rushed, and it was a little confusing the way things were happening, because they introduced Eddie Thawne, but it wasn't Eddie Thawne, and then Flash is kind of bouncing around in time, and you have no idea where Eddie was at. I was kind of thinking he was in an alternate Earth, and then it took till the 3rd episode before they revealed that he was in the future somewhere. So I think that was confusing. The execution could have been better. I think this could have honestly used maybe a 6 episode build up, as opposed to just the 4. Because then by the time he turned evil and recruited all the bad guys, it was the end of the episode, and because they wrapped it up halfway through to do the big long epilogue basically. And then on top of that, I actually did like them bringing all the evil speedsters together, especially haven't seen Zoom in forever. Savitar I never cared for. They didn't even reference the fact that this was basically an evil alternate future Barry. They just had a guy in a suit. These are characters, when they first faced off against the Flash, it took the whole team to beat just one of them. And this time around, each member of Team Flash is basically taken out, members of the evil speedsters. I mean, they took out Reverse Flash, no problem. Not no problem, but pretty easy compared to fighting the Reverse Flash. As far as character arcs, again, there's nothing really that special. They just kind of extended the whole Barry Irish trying to build towards having a kid stuff that they had last season. The will they won't they stuff with Chuck and Allegra, and it was nice when they did finally hook up. So that was took long enough basically. Since I can't think of the actor's name. I can't think of the actor's name that plays Joel, but he stepped down as a full-time cast member, so they had to make some cockamamie story up where he moved out of town, which he's missed episodes before. He had a back injury a couple years back. He was out for a lot of the season. I think they could have just left him on the main cast and not had to make some weird excuse. I don't think it added that much to Cecilia's character doing that. She radically leveled up this season. She just became pretty much the second most powerful member on the team, if not more powerful. Like I said, Chillblaine, I didn't care for him. I don't think they knew what to do with him without having his romance with Frost. They kind of dealt with that a little bit in the first couple episodes about him trying to bring her back and it failing and him still trying. And he just kind of had this back and forth, leaving the team, turning evil, whatever, until he finally just stuck around in the end. I said, he was pretty much wasted. Didn't care for the newest iteration of the Snow Sisters. At first, I thought Kyon eventually kind of grew as a character and she became more and more interesting. I'm still not sure how I feel about her just being some kind of weird goddess. I don't know where that came from, but it was an interesting twist on the character. It was something new, so I'll give it that. It was interesting. Like I said, you had your villains. You had the evil Batwoman, which I don't think there was anything that special about her. It was just, I did like bringing an evil version of the character, but other than that, not much to it. As far as the new Eddie, Cobalt Blue, I thought it was a rush where he turned evil. I don't think they really nailed it hard enough that this thing was in his head. It's really what convinced him to turn evil. There was definitely a vibe of a Venom and Eddie Brock thing going on, not only with the sound of the voice itself, but him, calling him Eddie because he's Eddie. Overall, the show looked like it always does. A lot of effects of the Flash running down the street super fast and running up buildings, and nothing we haven't seen a million times on the show. Got a couple okay hand-to-hand fight scenes, especially when Green Arrow showed up. But like I said, I don't think they really upped their game, effects-wise or action scenes-wise. It was a couple car explosions they probably spent a couple bucks on, but other than that, nothing too crazy. But like I said, overall, it was a mediocre season. I thought the Batwoman arc was weak. I thought the Strange New World one, whatever it was called, had potential, just didn't pan out. I think it was too short. I kind of did like the longer interlude, at least longer compared to the rest of the episodes, just because it was nice to have episodes that just wrapped up in one episode for the most part. Even though they weren't the greatest, it was just kind of like, okay, one and done. They're not building to something. They're not trying to save the future or whatever, Barry's pissed off about or freaking out about this time. So that was a nice little groove there. But still don't have a printer at this point, so let me read my notes off my laptop here, see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. The first episode, they started off with this dream sequence that confused the hell out of me until I finally figured out it was a dream. I thought it was weird that it was only like a couple weeks since like the season finale. But other than that, the Groundhog Day thing, the ending was so weird. It's just like, oh yeah, we did this together, and now Groundhog Day's over. Like, it never explained why it stopped or started or whatever. I don't know, it was tied to Iris's time sickness. It never was really explained. I mean, it's the Flash. They don't necessarily go into details, but it was just kind of like, all right, whatever. Second episode, we start seeing these new Rogue Gallery coming together more and more. Just none of them really wowed me. I didn't care for the version of Captain Boomerang. I didn't really care for the Fiddler. Just none of it really did it for me. They were just like, all right, just an annoying bad guys Barry's got to take down. And a lot of the characters popping up, I just barely remember. I barely remember what Murmur did. It was the other characters that popped up later in the season. I'm like, am I supposed to remember these guys? When the show's on that long, and I've watched every episode, but I don't remember any of these people. I didn't think the whole storyline of Barry recruiting the rogues on his side really quite worked that well. There was a couple okay moments, but overall just didn't really do it for me. And I don't think the action scenes were that impressive. Like I said, just Batwoman's plan just barely made sense. She somehow was duplicating herself and the suits all over town just because she had telepathy that Grodd increased somehow. I don't know. It was really weird. Again, I barely remember what happened to Grodd at the last time we saw him, so just fell out of the loop seeing him show up again. And then really everybody, like Allegra, Cecilia, and Kyon, it seemed like every week it's like, oh yeah, we could do this now. Like Allegra has X-ray vision, or at the end of the finale, Cecilia was flying and Kyon's turning in the mist. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, we got another power this week. Well, whatever. Like I said, the Luck episode was just kind of corny. Didn't really do anything for me. Next episode after that, we had Dreamer. just felt kind of half-assed, felt a little low budget. Don't think all her stuff tied that well together. What they were doing with the Barry and Iris' story, but again, it wasn't bad for a filler episode. The episode where they were kind of stuck in time and someone was trying to steal that device was okay. There was a couple of interesting twists. It was about as good as a Flash episode gets these days. As I did like the Barry Allen, Oliver Queen team up again. I thought the whole beginning felt rushed. Just him coming out. Ramsey escaping without explanation, somehow getting the drop on everybody. Like, that part just felt rushed, but the rest of the episode, I thought it worked out pretty good. Like I said, just all the moments between everybody and Oliver were pretty well done. Then you get to the final arc. It was weird to take that big time jump to where Iris is about to have the baby. Like, it was just a lot of confusing back and forth, cutting to Eddie, who's not Eddie, but he is. And then trying to figure out where in time everybody is. Like I said, you lose all the specialness of seeing Barry's mom and his dad when he went back in time because we see the Speed Force all the time and it looks exactly like his mom, and because we've seen Jay Garrick so many times and it looks like his dad. Like, I think you lose something. It's not really that special. I did like they finally tied up the loose end about when season 1 Barry went back in time, and we see that a future Barry, convinced them not to interfere and let events play out. So I thought that was pretty cool. Finally seeing how that all worked out. They definitely referenced a couple times how Eddie's body got sucked to that singularity after he died, but it really didn't seem to connect to him coming back. I thought maybe there would be more to it, like, oh, something happened on the other side of this thing, but it was just somehow the negative Speed Force can bring people back to life. And then just, I don't know, the head games and everyone trying to get the drop on him as Chillblaine was just, that episode was just okay. I felt it was treading water there a little bit. The third episode in that arc, they had Cecilia go to the future. It was almost kind of like a Days of Future Past 5, sending her consciousness there. I don't know why she just didn't tell people shit until like later on, like why she was there, because you're not really affecting the past, you're going in the future, so you're not affecting anything. So that was kind of a weird choice. And then they set up that whole thing about her, if she's choosing family or if she's choosing being a superhero, and that was an okay conflict. I don't know, nothing that special. And again, I said the confrontation with Eddie, he turned heel a little too fast, and again, I don't think it was sold well enough that he was being influenced by the crystal. Now, of course, like I said, we go to the finale, which I pretty well talked about enough. I don't know. There was some nice moments. Nice seeing Joe singing again, because he hasn't sang on the show in a while. He's got a good voice. I completely forgot about the Wells that showed up. I don't even remember what his backstory was. Something about him time traveling. And then he just kind of showed up, and no one seemed to even make a big deal about it. It's like, all right, he's here, whatever. People barely acknowledged him. He even was at the party at the end. We also had Barry's parents at the party. I don't know if it was supposed to be Jay Garrick and the friend that he had that looked like Barry's mom, or it was the Speed Force and Jay Garrick, or what it was. To be honest, you didn't need to explain it. It was a final episode. The show's been on 9 years. It's just nice to see him there. And then the end, Barry somehow throwing lightning and shares his powers with 3 people that I know they're all speedsters in the comics, but I don't know them well enough to have been like psyched when you see who they were, and just the fact that the show is ending and we know it's not followed up. It's like, I really don't care. I think that's it. I don't got a ton to say about the season. Like I said, it was just average for The Flash, which unfortunately is below average for a lot of shows. That's why I only gave it 2. It had some okay moments, but I said none of the character arcs really hit. Just felt like that's what was really treading the most water. And then, or running in place, if you want to go with The Flash and use that type of analogy. And that's the end of the Arrowverse, as far as we know. Other than that, I got the mostly spoiler-free version of this review up. I have other reviews. I got my comic strips. Those are all at soundedbettermyhead.com. So thanks for watching.